It's confusing because the mind can never get this. So the mind is always confused about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are conceptual ways of thinking about it that can make the mind feel less confused. But essentially, the mind is always confused about this. And there's always clarity because you're aware of whatever's happening. And in the awareness of whatever's happening, there's clarity. So for example, if the mind is confused, there's an awareness that the mind is confused, right? So the confusion is clear. But the mind is, what's clear is that the mind is confused. Was that just crazy, what I'm just saying? Because whatever's happening is clear, but it's the mind that doesn't get it. What are you looking for, Lisa? What is this last step that you're looking for?
Well, I heard about that kind of like you feeling that you're connected to everything. And this love, just being love.
Yeah, sounds good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in a sense, that's true. Because there is a deep connection with a sense of connection with everything. But what it actually is there's the resistance to now drops away. And when the resistance to now drops away, there's just now. And one way of expressing that is a connection to everything. But the problem is that that is a feeling state. Most people in their lives have had moments when they feel connected to everything. When they feel connected. It could be when on holiday. It could be when in the embrace of someone you love. It could be when listening to music. It could be when playing football or soccer or something like that. You see? Or it can just happen. Sex. Yeah. Yeah. It can happen during sex. It can happen almost, well, it can happen anytime. You can just be walking down the street. It doesn't have to be sex, of course. You can be doing the gardening. You can be watching the birds and the bees, literally. But the problem with me, I hesitate to say that it is a sense of oneness with everything, because there is that. But I hesitate to say that because that then becomes something that the mind wants to obtain, what the mind wants to see. So what happens? The mind hears words of the teaching. The mind reads words of the teaching. See, I like what you said. You said, I heard. You said, I heard. I heard that this is what happens. I heard that's what happened. So it's hearsay. So you hear about these things. And these are metaphorical carrots that are dangling in front of you, saying, look, there's more over here. There's more over here. And then the mind says, oh, I want that. That sounds good. I want that. Now that's actually a materialistic process, you know? People who are interested in spirituality, they often think they've gone beyond materialism. But I use the word materialism to mean the mind is chasing a feeling state. If you're materialistic, say you're interested in money, wealth, power, sex, material possessions, you're actually interested in a feeling state. You want to feel good about who you are. You want to feel secure. You see? But you're using money, power, sex, career, status as a means to feel better. You're using material objects as a means to feel better. When you realize the futility of that, when you realize that money has importance, but not that much importance, you know? when you realize that things like status don't have any essential meaning at all. When you start seeing through these illusions of materialism, then sometimes we can turn to spirituality and seek fulfillment in spirituality. But what we're doing, we use the same materialistic paradigm. The mind takes the paradigm, the seeking paradigm in the material world, in the so-called material world. It's all spiritual. It's only spiritual. But we take the paradigm of the so-called material world in that I need to get this object over there, and that will make me happy. I need to get the Ferrari.
Nothingness.
That will make me happy. I need to get the career. That will make me happy. I need to get the lover. That will make me happy. You know, whatever it is. You know, I need to get really good at playing the guitar. That will make me happy. Whatever it is for you, it's going to vary. The exact object of desire is going to vary. And then when people come across spirituality, naturally and innocently, the mind will apply the same paradigm. It'll say, I want enlightenment. I want liberation. I want oneness. I want wholeness. Whatever it is for you. Yeah. And then what's happened is the mind's had a concept of something that it's now trying to achieve because it's heard about all these amazing feeling states. Feeling states come and go. Experiences always come and go. They always have a beginning and they always have an end. So if we're looking for fulfillment and we're looking for a feeling state, a state of oneness, you might find it. But I guarantee when you find it, you'll lose it as well. It will stay around for a while. So sex is a great example. You know, you're making love to somebody, you're deeply in love with that person, it feels amazing. And then a couple of days later, you could hate that person. And that feeling state's completely gone. Yeah? The person who was your twin flame, when you say twin flame, are you talking about a romantic thing, Lisa?
Not really. As well.
What do you mean by
it was like yeah, undescribable. But yeah, of course there's also romantic, but there's also like
with a man, yeah, or with a person.
It was a man, yeah. Or is, but yeah. There is no connect. Well, no communication in the moment, but yeah.
So all these things, there is no next step, really. There is no next step. I'm afraid this is it. Just that. Yeah. Now what happens? The mind is looking for the next step. But
you know, you say the person just disappears. So
yeah, it makes it sound like in the future there's going to be this new experience where there's no person anymore, right? And it's going to be like something kind of different in some way. Maybe you'll be in the flow, that you'll be like this. You'll be just like, huh? You won't necessarily be doing this with your hands, but inside you're going to be doing this because this is what it's going to be like. Life's going to be like this. Yeah, you see what I mean? You're in the flow now. Yeah, and again, in these moments that we spoke about before, whether it's those you might have had experiences like that. Again, in sports, to move away from sex, we'll go to sports. In sports, a lot of people talk about being in the zone. And you get this with people, you get this with any kind of practical thing, or especially any artistic or creative thing. Musicians, when they're playing the music, they suddenly feel like the music is playing them. Or you feel like you are one with the tennis racket, you know, very high spiritual thoughts. So whatever it is, you see, these are experiences that come and go, and they do have some kind of, there is a connection between that and what I'm talking about. But the problem is, if you're seeking that, there's the you that's seeking that. What I'm talking about is right now, actually, there is no one. So rather than this is a place where you've got to get to in the future, where there's no one, So it's not like there's a Lisa now, and then in the future, you've got to get to a place where there's no Lisa. No. Non-duality says that it's already right now. This means right now there is no Lisa. So this means the experience you're having now is the experience we're talking about. The experience of no Lisa is this experience. There is no Lisa now. So if you look at when you're talking to me, if you listen to your words, if you watch your thoughts and reactions, where are they coming from? Now, if you look and observe, this is my experience. The words that I'm speaking, they're just spontaneously arising. They're just coming out of my mouth, speaking. The thoughts I'm having, they just spontaneously appear in my mind. You see? So there's no one doing it. It's just like the wind's blowing outside and the birds are flying around. Yeah. And then the words are coming out of my mouth. But the difference is the mind then says, I'm speaking. It labels this spontaneous process as a me speaking. So it says, Tom now is speaking. So it's created this identity or entity, Tom, this conceptual entity. Tom saying, Tom is speaking. And Tom is speaking to Lisa. And then Lisa's thinking and Lisa's talking back to me. But actually what's happening is speaking and then speaking. It's like reflection. So for example, everything I've just said to you now, you have made me do that. Because if you hadn't said what you'd said, the sound of your voice wouldn't have gone into my ears, into my brain, done some stuff in my brain, and then my brain has now spat out a load of words back to you because of what you said. So you have actually created this teaching.
And it's even more about this, because I mean, even when you transform something in yourself, like feelings or traumas or something like this, people around you changing as well, there is also a connection.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we're just describing what is already the case. We're not saying you've got to get anywhere in the future. This is the last step. The last step, the next step is no step. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So what happens is the mind comes along and says, there's a me. Now, this me, I've heard about all these different things that sound amazing. I want to get them. So this is the greedy ego. I'm not putting anyone down for being greedy. This is normal. This is innocent. Innocent. The ego is innocently greedy. It wants something. It wants to be whole. It wants to be secure. But there is no me now. There's no Lisa now. There's the appearance of a body, an appearance of a body-mind entity speaking, talking. But there's no one there doing any of it. It's just spontaneously happening. Same with everything. Just like a tree grows, there's no one inside the tree, growing the tree. There's no one inside the volcano, erupting the volcano. There's no one in the sun, shining the sun. And there's no one in Tom doing this stuff, and there's no one in any of you doing this stuff. So in the old days, in the ancient times, people used to believe that there was the sun god, there was the volcano god, there was the sea god. And if we pissed off the volcano god, if we didn't do sacrifice or give the volcano god gifts every now and again, then the volcano would erupt. But now we look back on this and we see this is superstition, this is rubbish, we say now, because we know much better now. But the same principle we don't apply to ourselves. We still think there's someone in here. We know there's no longer someone in the sun. We know there's no longer someone in the moon. We know there's no longer someone in the sea or someone in the tree or the volcano god. We don't believe these things anymore. We've grown beyond this. But we still believe there's someone in here. So one way of thinking about this is that everything is just God. God is just doing everything already. It's all God's will. There's no Tom's will. There's no Lisa's will. There's no anyone else's will. It's just God's will. And that's a way in. That's the way into the teaching. We realize that that's the way. Once we start listening to this message like that, it starts to unravel our conditioning, our sense of being a separate entity, a doer. But what you'll find, Lisa, is that with these teachings, they're slightly different. With the way I talk about it, slightly different every time. And I recommend people come to these meetings repeatedly, because it's through repeated coming to these meetings that we are exposed to these kinds of teachings, verbally and energetically. And this has an effect over time. So there's a paradox. One place is the reason it's important to come to a meeting like this is because this is a kind of over a long period of time, or over a period of sustained period of time, is that this is one of the few places you'll hear that you don't need any time to do anything. There's no time involved. There's nowhere to really go to. What's the paradox there? It's a lot. It makes sense though. Coming to a meeting like this is one of the few places where you'll be exposed energetically, conceptually, to a message that says there's nowhere else to go to. And so that's why it's important to come. Do you see? It's funny. Because in your normal day-to-day life, the message you're getting is that you're an individual person and you need to do things to protect yourself, to be happy, and to go places. You see, that's the message we're being given by our society all around us, by the people all around us, by the media. Innocently, we're not blaming anyone. But it's at these kinds of meetings where you're told, actually, no, this is everything already. You don't need anything. Yeah? You don't need a teaching. You don't need a meeting. You're already everything. Well, how could you need a teaching or a meeting or anything? You don't need anything. But yet, it's the meeting that often reminds you of that. Okay. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
So when we are striving to go somewhere, when we're striving to get somewhere, that creates a tension. That creates a tension. It creates stress. It could be a small amount of stress or a large amount of stress. It's something, it creates uneasiness. Some people call it dis-ease, don't they? Have you heard that? Dis-ease. Because there's a dissatisfaction with the way things are. So there's a tendency, I need more, I need something else. So now there's a tension there. And this makes us feel disconnected. When you let go of that tension, of that desire to move beyond, then there's a natural feeling of connection with everything. There was no desire for anything more. And when there's no desire for anything more, what happens is the blissful aspect of ourself, the peaceful aspect of ourself, the love aspect of ourself manifests. So we feel happy. We feel peaceful. We feel love. And in this peace, happiness, and love, there's no desire to go anywhere else, which means the ego is not acting. The ego is not trying to go somewhere forward, trying to go somewhere else. Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti, he used to say that the me, the ego, is in a process of becoming. It's always trying to become somewhere else, meaning it's trying to go forward and get something. Whereas what we're talking about here is just what is, or being. So you can talk about becoming and being. And when you're just being, then you feel connected. Now, if we go one level deeper, we'll see the reason we are looking for something else is because of a concept of what we are. If we think we are limited body mind entities, then we'll need something else. You'll need to protect your physical body and your form, because you are a small thing living in a big world. But when you intuit that you are the body mind, yes, and you are everything. It's not a feeling, it's a knowledge. It's a knowing that we already have. It doesn't feel any different. Then that sense of conflict, of tension disappears, and there's just a sense of love, connection, peace. That doesn't, you can't get that through looking for it. Looking for that feeling is like trying to calm the water with your hand. Trying to calm it, trying to smooth out the waves with your hand. And you just create more waves. You can't stop desiring more until you realize what you are. Because until you realize what you are, if you don't realize what you are, you always consider yourself to be limited and separate. So you want more. When you realize what you are, then there's no need for desiring more. Now, on a human level, the body mind will still desire things spontaneously. Just like your hair grows spontaneously, your digestive system digests food spontaneously, the mind will also act spontaneously. You know, the mind is like another organ of the body. The heart will pump spontaneously, the muscles will contract and relax spontaneously, and the brain will churn out thoughts spontaneously, and the body mind will do things. So there will be desire, but it's not egoic desire. It's just natural desire of the body. It doesn't feel like desire. It doesn't feel like egoic desire. It's got a totally different quality to it. Like if you really are really looking for the person of your dreams, you're desiring a lover, say, to meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right or whatever it is. It feels different to like if you're hungry and your body says, I'm hungry and I desire some food. The physical hunger doesn't feel the same as, oh, I really want to meet that special person. You see, one is egoic, innocent, but egoic. The other one is just a natural bodily desire, let's say. I feel hungry. My tummy's rumbling. I need to eat something. It's got a completely different quality. We call them both desire in the word in the English language, but it's different. It's like thinking. It's different between egoic thinking and the thinking that happens when there's no ego. It's just spontaneous thought thinking. It doesn't feel like thinking, even though it is thinking. There's a different quality to it, let's say. It's very difficult to, so you can't stop the desire for more until you realize what you are. It's very difficult to realize what you are as long as all the thoughts are going around your head. Why is that? Because the thoughts are learnt thoughts. We think based upon our conditioning, our environment. So our learnt thoughts are from the society around us, isn't it? So if you can speak English, for example, you've learned that English language. Maybe English is not your first language. Maybe German is your first language. You've learnt that language from your society around you. And now you think in that language because your thoughts are given to you by society to a large extent. So when we're thinking, the thoughts are always perpetuating this concept of a me. Almost every single thought we have, 99.9% of all our thoughts are talking about me, 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 I. Tom, 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 Tom. So when you're listening to your thoughts, it makes you feel like you're an individual. And it's not always obvious. So for example, if I say, you know, let me think of something. I need to go outside and go to the shops. What you're really saying is, I am the body mind. And I, the body mind entity, need to go outside and go down to the shops. So you've already taken on this identity as limited body mind entity. Whereas that's not our identity. Our true identity is beyond limitation. The body mind is limited, and the body mind looks after itself. Just like the tree is limited, and the tree looks after itself. The body mind's also part of a greater whole, just like the tree is. The tree and the soil and the air and the sun are all connected, just as we are to all these things. So you're going to desire more as long as you think of yourself as being a person. So only when you see what you are do the desires naturally fall away. You can't see what you are if the mind is very, very busy, full of thoughts, because the thoughts constantly reinforce the idea that I am a separate person. So then, what do? We have to try and reduce the thoughts. Traditionally, it's said that when you're in the presence of a teacher, your thoughts will naturally listen if you're open to the teacher's energy. The true teacher is your own heart. So that teacher is always with you. But when we come to a meeting like this, we can be consciously quieter, and these things are easier to see. As our thoughts lessen, we feel happier. Happiness is our true nature. We come into contact with our true nature. We start to realize our true nature is happiness. We develop faith in the teachings. And this creates a positive cycle in which our thoughts get less, we become happier, we get more faith in the teachings, we see what the teachers are saying are true, and over time, the sense of needing to identify as a limited person, limited being, reduces, and our desires, our egoic desires fall away. But the function of the human being, the appearance of the human being and our consciousness remains and functions and looks after itself. And it's utterly wonderful, utterly mysterious, and totally ordinary. So total love, total peace, total connection, being in that flow state is what we're looking for. That actually is our nature. What's stopping us experiencing that is all these thoughts, all these concepts. These concepts don't really obstruct anything. They appear to when we believe them. When you don't believe the concepts about what you are, when you don't believe the thoughts, then they don't obstruct anymore. Problem is, it's very difficult when the thoughts are appearing not to believe them, not to think that you're thinking them. When a thought comes up, you think, I'm thinking that, that's me, that's my thought. It's not. That's an imposter. That's not you. That's just the culture, conditioning, manifesting in your experience. That's not you. It's just like if you are a child and you're brought up to believe a certain thing. That's not your belief. That's your parents' belief. But you think it's your belief. And then later on, maybe when you get older, you realize, oh, I was wrong about that. It's the same with the I. We've been taught to believe that we're individuals. Now, as we get older, we can realize, oh, that's not true. We can be happy. It's wonderful to have contact and relationships with other people, but there's no fulfillment to be found in personal relationships. No lasting fulfillment to be found. You can find lots of healing through interpersonal relationships. Don't get me wrong. We grow through various aspects of our life, our daily life, our relationships, being a big part of that. But don't think anyone's going to make you happy or anything's going to make you happy. It is a cliche, but the happiness comes from within. So it's actually what we are. Our nature is love and happiness. And it's in this love and happiness that everything occurs. And everything occurs is actually like a manifestation of this love, happiness. Love, happiness is the same as presence being. Okay, anyone else?